I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion.
Welcome back. And yesterday, or the last vlog, we talked about how Michael Bast, he actually learned how to ride a motorcycle, and he was racing TT, and he bought the first JP motorcycle and shared it with his brother Steve and started racing. And today we're going to talk about what happened after that. So we're going to talk about that right now. The 1970s was the Bast brothers' decade. Mike Bast in particular won 7 out of 10 United States Nationals. That's 70% of the Nationals that Mike won. And his brother Steve won 1 in 74.
Another reason to breathe this air.
So that was 80% of the Nationals in the 1970s. And the Rocket Rick Wood won 2. So basically it was the Bast brothers and Rick Woods. They completely owned the 1970s. 1969 was the revival of Speedway at Costa Mesa Speedway. And Steve Bast went ahead and won the first national championship at Costa Mesa Speedway. Steve was an amazing rider. He was one of my favorites. Actually, he's probably my favorite. I love Steve's intensity. He was amazing. That guy, when he got on the track, he was like, "I'm gonna get you." He was very intense, and Steve was just an amazing rider. But he won the first United States Championship at the Costa Mesa Bull Ring. In 1974, Steve Bast went ahead and edged out his brother Mike for the United States Championship. Mike won like 5 United States National Championships in a row after that. A guy from England asked me, why didn't Mike race in England? They were very upset. Over at the pond, they're very angry that the Bast brothers didn't race full-time at the pond. And I said, hey, Mike had a business racing Speedway. He made lots of money in the 70s, and he won a lot. So he was married to his wife, Dee. He didn't need to go over to the pond. Why? Because he was cleaning up at Costa Mesa and other tracks. Mike was making a great living racing Speedway. And the brother, Steve, he went from buying his first JAP and sharing it with his brother Mike in 1968 to 1969, winning the United States National Championship. Like I said, in the 70s, we saw the Bast brothers win 80% of the United States Nationals. When are you going to ever see that again? Never in the history of Speedway. You're not going to see dominance. 80% of the Nationals won by a brother team. Or Rick Woods won 2 national championships, like I mentioned, in the 70s, 1970 and 1972. One of the reasons that the Bast brothers were so dominant, and Michael Bast, in the 1970s is the European riders. They came over to Costa Mesa Speedway for exhibition, and they wiped out the American Speedway team. They had all the old 1968 style of Speedway riding. Ivan Major and Barry Briggs came over and said, no, 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 you gotta learn how to ride Speedway the right way. Ivan and Barry went ahead and taught Mike how to ride the Speedway bike, and probably Steve too. And they went ahead and were all ears. Everyone needs a coach. I was mentioning to even Bruce Penhall yesterday that everyone needs a coach, and he said that Mike Bast coached him also. So Mike Bast needed a coach, and Ivan Major was Michael Bast's coach. 1971 was probably Mike's most exciting year racing Speedway. Why? He won his first United States Speedway Championship. He only raced like for 3 years and he was a United States Speedway champion. His brother Steve only raced like 2 years and was United States Speedway champion. Mike went ahead and beat out Mike Conley. Big Mike Conley, number 89. Mike beat out Mike Conley. Mike beat Mike for the United States Championship in a runoff. In the early 70s, Mike and his brother Steve and a few other American Speedway legends, they went to Australia and New Zealand to do exhibitions and races. And they went ahead and developed their skills on the very long tracks. And then they came home probably to Costa Mesa and they probably had to relearn how to ride all over again. But Mike and Steve and the rest of Team America went ahead and developed themselves during the off season in the 70s, and they became better Speedway riders, and Speedway grew and grew in popularity. And it was the heyday of Speedway in the 1970s. In the 1970s, Mike set a record for the most scratch main event wins at Costa Mesa. Until like the 80s, Alan Crazy Christian went ahead and broke that record. But in the 70s, Michael Bast was winning everything, and he was winning a lot of money too. I was in the stands in the 70s. I was a little kid watching the races, and everybody was what? Booing Mike Bast. I was shocked. I turned around. I didn't know what they were doing. I was a little kid. And the people said, we're tired of Michael Bast winning all the main events. We want to see somebody new. But Michael Bast didn't allow that. He kept winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning, 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 winning. I was home one Saturday morning reading the Orange County Register, and they had an article on Mike Bast, on his winning. They said that Mike won like $500 or $1,000 every night when he won at Costa Mesa. The reason why Mike made so much money is the SRA. Jerry Fairchild was the president, and they guaranteed the riders 30% of the gate, the money plus the purse. The riders were making all kinds of money, and it was just great. Mike Bast made a living. That's why he didn't go to Europe. Why? Because he was making a lot of money. In 1976, the godfather of Speedway, Harry Oxley, he went ahead and kicked out the SRA. He banned it forever. And it pissed off Michael Bast. Why? Because he was making a lot of money. Harry Oxley said, we're not going to have the SRA no more, and 30% of the gate, no more. It caused a lot of friction with Mike Bast and Harry Oxley. They fought. And Mike Bast went ahead and organized a picket. A picket! Remember that one in the late 70s? They went ahead and picketed Costa Mesa Speedway for like 4 or 5 weeks. They were, and I was actually there in the picket line. I had to, because Jerry, the president of SRA, was my tuner. He said, Brian, you better go picket or I'm kicking you out. Even the legendary announcer, Larry Motormouth Huffman, was in the picket line. It was just crazy. You know, the riders would have rather been riding than picketing. And I was up and coming in D1 also, and I was very sad. The rider and people would drive in the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds at 88 Fair Drive, and they would look at the riders and go, what the heck is this? And the riders had picket signs and were very upset, and the spectators turned their cars around and left. And sad to say that pretty much was the ending of the glory days of Speedway. We have more videos here if you want to go ahead and check out some Speedway and Mike Bast. And you can subscribe here at the bottom if you like the content of this video. We're going to talk more about the 1970s and Mike Bast. We just ran out of time, so we're going to talk more about what happened in the 70s and with Michael Bast. So please like, share, subscribe, and always ring that bell.